Hello and welcome to the Code-Maven meeting and workshop and presentation, and whatever you like to call it. My name is Gabor Szabo, as you know from the advertisement or the description of the event. I used the Code-Maven name for a couple of years for all kind of other things, all kind of technologies. Originally, it started out as Perl Maven, and I have a website about Perl, and then I converted into something called Code-Maven, or not converted. I created this Code-Maven with everything else, and then I started to separate out basically another site which is called Rust-Maven. I'll show you in a second, where I write mostly about Rust. I have been programming for something like 40 years and teaching programming for almost 25, mostly Perl at the beginning, and then many years Python. And in the last year, I've been investing quite a lot of energy into Rust. So that's my background. I'm self-employed, and partially I teach at corporations, and I also help companies, usually by introducing test automation, either by teaching or by introducing test automation and continuous integration and trying to improve their development practices in general. That's what I do. So let me share the screen, and then I can talk a little bit more about these other things. So hopefully you're seeing my browser, and then in the browser you can see probably the Meetup page, where the announcement was made that we are going to talk about the Rocket framework of Rust, and I'm trying to introduce a little bit about it. Now, I already gave this presentation actually twice, and in each time I had encountered the issue is that at least half of the people who came didn't know at all web development. So I decided that I'm going to do only the beginning of this, explaining what even web development is, and I won't go very deep into the actual library, Rocket library. Now, one more thing about these meetings, I mentioned also here that basically I'm doing them free of charge, thanks to all the sponsors who are sponsoring me through various platforms. So if you also feel that it's valuable what I've been doing and what I'm going to do with all these meetings, then please consider supporting this project, this idea. So there are okay. So immediate question in the chat room: how does Rocket compare with Axum and Actix-Web? I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't really know how to compare. Okay. I'm not really, also don't really like it as comparisons, but I don't, partially because I don't consider myself as like the ground knowing all these things, and especially because I hardly know the other two frameworks at this point. Later, especially if I see that these meetings get people are interested in these meetings, then I'm probably going to cover the other two as well. And then maybe down the road, a couple of months from now, I will be able to give you a little bit more in-depth explanation of which one is better for what and which one is not. Okay, so I really can't give a good comparison. Now, people ask me, and I see this quite often when I mention Rocket, that people immediately come with the other two frameworks, either asking what's the difference or telling me that those are much better. And I don't know, maybe they are much better. I picked up Rocket after checking a couple of other things, not these two famous ones. And I arrived to the point that here is how it looks like. This is the website. Very nice. And this is partially the reason that I started to use Rocket, because it looks nice. And I felt quite okay with what Rocket provides. And I also think, at least for myself, that I enjoy actually, and I just noticed that there's a new version. Okay. So I actually enjoy also playing with this thing. So it doesn't really matter for me at this point which one I'm using, especially for experimental project. It also is interesting part that how much you can separate from the actual framework to the business logic that's behind that should probably not be connected tightly coupled with the framework, and then it doesn't matter that much which framework you're using. So let me get into using Rocket basically, or getting started to use Rocket. Actually, even before that, or connected to that, there is a website that I maintain called workshops.codemaven.com, where I list now the workshops and the schedules and whatnot. It's outside of the Meetup page, and I keep track all the workshops that I'm doing. And one of the things that I put here, and that's why I'm showing it now, is this link to the where I kept the announcement and a few notes that I already prepared, and I'm going to add here more notes if we are discussing other things inside during this meeting. So why Rocket? I can't really give you an answer that this is better because of this and this and this and this and this. This seems to be a nice framework. That's what I found. And some people say that is the most advanced one. Some of them say that it's very advanced, but the others have better middleware support. Okay, so I guess everyone can play with them and try each framework out. I have a bunch of articles, okay? So you can find these articles on the Rust. I don't know if you can see the URL itself because that's a rather small letters. It's rust.codemaven, code-maven.com, and then /rocket where I put the list of all the Rocket-related articles I wrote. Basically, these are small examples that I prepare for myself and for all the readers who'd like to play with Rocket. In general, my experience that though while the documentation is Rocket is quite nice, there are, just as with other open source projects, there are all kind of things that seem to make sense to many other people, and that's probably the way they are writing these documentations. But I feel a little bit lacking. And especially that, and especially in Rust, I encountered many cases that there was an example, but it didn't work out of the box. And the reason it didn't work because it needed the addition of another crate, another feature of the crate. So it wasn't enough to add the one crate to the as a dependency. I also had to add the feature, and I didn't know how to find this out. So I fell into this trap several times. Also here in the Docker documentation. So my examples try to be like everything in there. Some people criticize that because I don't exactly focus on the 3 lines that might be really, really relevant. But if you click on one of them, then you can see that it even contains the Cargo.toml. So you'll see exactly what you need to put in the dependencies. So in this case, it's just Rocket in the dependencies. Let me try to see one other example, and I actually strangely I can't. Okay, there it is. So this one example. So this one, for example, using a templating system. So here you can see exactly what kind of features that dependency needs in order to make it work. Okay, so this is a little bit about how you can make further progress after seeing this video, after playing a little bit about with Rocket. Now, in one of the recent presentations, actually, I learned about something called Cargo Generate that I didn't know about it. This is I guess it's a crate, it's a framework to create various skeletons or starter packages of various projects. And because I didn't know about this, there are 2 links for the cargo generate itself and the list of, I should change the one of the links, a list of projects that use this cargo generate framework in order to create a skeleton of a project. Now, because I didn't know it, I created my own, which is called Rocket Starter, which is specific only for Rocket. And I'm going to use it now because I didn't have time to experiment with the cargo generate and maybe rewrite to use that. So in order to use this, you need to run cargo and enlarge a little bit the font so you can see it. You need to run cargo install Rocket Starter, and then you will be able to use it. So let me start with that. Okay, here is on the terminal. We are on the terminal, and actually I'll need to. I can go here, Rocket Starter, so I can run it. And right now it expects a name. Actually, if I type in help, then it will also tell that besides the name of the project, of the crate, basically, that I'm going to create, it also can have various skeletons. Okay, so I'm going to start with the most simple, and I'm going to call it Demo1, the first project. And I'm telling it that it's a simple skeleton of basically it's a crate, okay, but based on the Rocket framework. So it created a folder called Demo1, and inside it creates the standard format, basically, or the standard layout. It doesn't set up yet Git repository. Maybe the cargo generate would, and then I will see. Okay, so what is in here? I'm going to use partially Vim, partially Visual Studio Code, I guess, but it's faster to show you this one. So the most basic one is just saying that the dependency is Rocket, and I just noticed, as I said, that there's a new version of the Rocket, so I have to update this. And then let's look at the source and the main program. So actually, let me run this, okay, and then I can explain something better. So I just type in cargo run, and it, of course, compiles everything and will run the project in hopefully a second. In the meantime, I can come to the other window and open the main RS here in the separate window. By the way, if you don't, do you see the left-hand side of the screen, the first column of the editor, or should I move it? Because I moved the bottom part, but because I know that's an issue, but let me know if you can see the whole text, or if you can't. Okay, so now, as you can see, it's already running, and it's running on IP address 127.0.0.1, so localhost, and port 8000. That's the default. So I come to my browser, go to localhost, and it's 8000, and it says hello world. Okay, so it's working. Now at the top, basically, it doesn't matter for Rocket. Besides where it launches, it doesn't matter what is the name of the website. So in this case, the name of the website of the host is localhost, and it has a port 8000. But what really matters for Rocket and for application is what comes after the first slash. So here, there's nothing after this first slash, but maybe there is a path called login. Okay, so if you have an application where you try to log in, then you will have an address called login. So if I click on enter, send enter, it says 404 not found. I will show you a little bit more about it. So obviously it doesn't exist because this application is very basic. It's only the hello world part. So and after this login, maybe there are all kind of parameters. So there might be a question mark, and then let's say username and my let's say Gabor, and then other stuff might be there. Obviously, that if the password appears there, that's not a good idea. We'll talk about that also in a second. So what Rocket really deals with is these passes. how to handle, and then later on these parameters that come after the question mark. So it's actually in every web framework, that's what you need to deal with. And the idea of mapping these paths that come after the slash onto functions that will respond with some page or some action, this is called routing. So if I go back to the source code now, you will see here that we are basically defining a route called slash, and we're telling Rust, or Rocket more precisely, that if the user visits this page called slash, okay, so that URL, then call this function, and whatever this function returns, this is basically the page that is being returned. So that's why when I visit the main page, okay, let me visit, I get back the text hello world. And I could change it, and of course then I need to restart the application. So hello, let's say hello Rust, I'm going to change it. If I reload the page, it doesn't change yet because the process didn't change. So I can stop it with Ctrl-c and restart it, and it compile it again, and I can go back, reload with Ctrl-r, and now I have the new content of this web page here. So that's basically one basic thing that we do with Rocket. Now I could also let's create a new route. So let's create this route, which I called it login. Maybe it's not a good idea. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, login. Let's call it login. I also need, of course, naturally, I need a new function name. So this one is called index. I can't have the same function name twice in Rust. So let's call it login. The name of the function actually doesn't matter. So let me call it get login, just so it will be different, and just return it. This is the login page. Now, defining this itself is not yet enough. We also need to map it to some overall project inside Rocket. And this is the second part that comes here, where we launch the whole project. So this is the whole application, basically. And this looks like this. We have to mark it with this launch tag, and then we call Rocket build, and we call it, we are mounting, okay, mapping the routes of the index function in this case. So which one is the index function? The top one, right? That handles the slash. We're mapping it onto the slash application. And at first, when I saw this, it felt like a duplication, because in many of the other frameworks, like in Perl or in Python, this duplication also only appears when you start writing a little bit more advanced projects. But in the basic version, there's no such duplication. But nevertheless, when you start writing more complex applications, let's say in Python Flask, you do have this duplication, and I'll tell you in a second why it's there. But for now, let me just add here the get login function. Okay, so this needs to be the name of the function. And this way, how shall I call it? I mean, it's called mounting. I mount the index and get login functions onto the slash of the main application. So let me restart this, and later on, maybe in the next thing, we're going to take a look at how we can automate the restart, so we won't have to stop or save the application. And in the meantime, oh, we are 16 people already. Very nice. And welcome to all the people who came a little bit late, but nevertheless came. That's nice. So, okay, restarted it. I can go back to the application. And now I can reload it. It's still the same. But now if I run login, go to the login page, this is the login page. Now it says this is the login page. Okay. So this way, I go back to the editor. this way I created a new route. Okay, let me create another one. Let me create another one, which is, let's say, we have what shall we have? We have a marketing page, okay? And the marketing page has a main page, and it's called main marketing. Now think about the idea is that you have basically on the same website several sub applications. Let's call them. One of them, let's say, managing all the registration and all the user management. Okay. The other one may be some blog. Okay. Well, actually, let's do this. So this one may be the blog main blog page. Okay. So maybe you have a separate blog, and then each one of these is basically a separate project. They don't have a lot of interaction, let's say. So you could move them, and I won't do that now, move them into separate Rust files, and tell basically the developer that write this code as if you were the only application on the website. So when we are talking about the main blog page, we are also going to, because it's a separate project, not this one, okay? We are also going to say that this is the root of our project. And this one is going to just say main blog page. So we will see what happens with this. Now we can then mount this in a different way. So we can here now, okay, now I already need the VS Code, so it will be nicer. I can mount, let me copy paste this one. I can mount to the blog URL this other thing, main blog page. Okay? And I don't need this dot here. Okay, so now I do this, and let's see if it works the way I hopefully. Okay, something I didn't write correctly. Oh, there is an extra dot here as well. Okay, I should really switch to Visual Code because it helps me. But let me check what people are asking. Okay. Okay, isn't bad to have a link on the function and not in the router build function like the Axum, because you can forget to close open certain link. Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question here. Sorry. So maybe I'll get back to it a little bit. So anyway, here is it's running already, and I can get back. So now in addition to this login, I can also go to this blog. Okay, and now this is the main blog page. So just imagine that, getting back to this, that basically you put someone else in charge into a separate Rust file who is writing all the blog thing, and that person doesn't really need to know that this is going to be mounted on /blog. Okay, it's enough for that person to know the internal hierarchy of that project. And then I forgot. I'm not sure if I have it in a. Let me find it. I don't think that I have it here. There is a macro, but I don't remember now which one. Okay, that will map the exact route. So we'll provide you the exact URL of given a function name. So you don't have to in your code base. You don't have to. You won't say that you refer it to /blog/ I don't know, page number 3, but you would just say page number 3, and because of the mounting, it will be able to figure out where to put it. Well, okay, only who has the login can edit the blog. I don't know if the blog anyone can edit the blog. Okay, so someone asked me How will be the login, the relationship of the blog and the login? Maybe the blog is not related to the login. Maybe the login is referred. Maybe this is a bank. Okay, so there are people who are logging in and the account holders, and then the blog is a totally separate system, which is actually edited separately, and this only shows the blog. Okay, so I don't. It doesn't really matter. That's much more. This question, I think, is much more relevant for the actual applications and a much deeper question than what I can address now. I'm really trying to address only the basics here. Okay, okay, so basically that's I think the beginning of it, when we are returning these very static strings. So still nothing really happened, but returning these really static strings. But you can see at the top that we are using this, saying this, the macro use. So we will get these macros. Basically, I think the routes macro in here, if I'm not mistaken, that's the main thing that it's importing. But there are a couple of other macros that we are not using yet. Now, what is this get thing? Okay, in the HTTP protocol. So HTTP is what we are talking, but the browser talks to the web server. That's the HTTP protocol. And there are various keywords for that protocol. So the browser can send various types of requests. And it all depends on what the developer wrote, actually. So it's not the user decides, but the developer decides what kind of request. And the two most common requests are get and post requests. And get are usually used for getting data out, and post is usually used for posting data, for submitting data, and so on. There is the deep meaning of which one should be used when. From my point of view, sort of, the main interesting part is that when you're sending a GET request and you have parameters, okay, sorry, someone is calling me and I can't answer now, of course. So this is an online presentations while my phone is there. Okay, so when you are sending a GET request and it has parameters, you will see, let's say when you are using, let me check if I type in Rust here, what happens? Just Rust. Yeah, so I'm using DuckDuckGo as the search engine, but it actually is the same with Google and probably the other search engines. At the top here, you can see that after the address, there is a question mark. And then here, actually, you can see both what I typed in and all kind of hidden parameters that DuckDuckGo set up, or the browser actually set up. And that's how the request was sent in. So this is a GET request. And in GET request, you always see all the parameters in the URL, which, again, beyond the meaning of what GET should be and what POST should be, this is what you can see in reality. And it has some interesting aspect. So here you can see all the parameters. So let's say you have a login page. You probably don't want it to be a GET request, because then the user, whatever the user typed in password, will be shown also here, okay, which is probably not very secure. So that's probably not the way to do it. If your browser basically sends a POST request, then all this data is sent sort of behind the scene in the body of the request, not in the body of the request. Okay, so you won't see it here at the top. This also has, so it looks, it at least, it is more secure because you don't see it at the top. Of course, they are still both sent in clear text unless you're talking to an HTTPS server. So that's where the encryption matters, but it still matters that you don't show the link here at the top for a couple of reasons. One of them, because someone can look at behind the shoulder and see the password that way, or and also because these addresses are usually logged by the web server. And so then it will get in, your password will get in as free text, will get into the log of the web server, and who knows what happens to those log files. So a well-written web application won't send secret informations in this way. Okay, but that's sort of the little behind the scene of GET and POST request. So when we and one additional thing, if it's a GET request and you have all the parameters here, it has the advantage that you can copy and paste this URL, and you can even send it to someone, and then that person can actually execute the exact same request. While in the POST request, all these parameters are hidden. So if you copy paste the top URL, all the data that was sent in is lost. So you can't send. So you can send. So whatever you send to the other person, they won't arrive to the same content because they will lack the data that you sent in the request. So if I get back to this page, and by the way, just keep asking questions if you have any questions. I'll try to answer if I can. So this get keyword basically tells Rocket that this function is going to deal with a get request arriving to the slash path or to the login path. It won't deal with a post request. In the same way, we could also set up separate functions, or I guess you can also say for the same function to handle both get and post requests. But probably the right thing is that for each get request, there is a function, and for each post request, we will implement its own function because they are going to do different things anyway. So probably we'll have separate functions. So that's it. This one, I covered this one, I covered these parts, and then here are the tests. So the tests are in the in a separate file. Let me drink a little bit, and if you have any questions, ask questions now. So in this test, we are basically we have this client which comes from the Rocket framework as well, and it creates us an object that can be used to actually send in these get or post or whatever requests we would like. Okay, so when we are testing with the framework, we don't really launch a full-blown web server like we did when we were earlier, when we wanted to see how it behaves, right? So in this window, we have running the web server. When we are running the tests, it doesn't start a web server. It just internally runs all the dispatches as if there was a real client asking the web server to do whatever. Okay, it has the advantage, of course, that it doesn't need a web server, that doesn't need a port to take up one port, and it means that we can run two tests in parallel because they don't pick up the same port. There's no port, but it's not the same exactly as writing and as running tests against the real running web application. So there might be issues that come out when you basically deploy your web application that might not come out in this kind of testing. Now, with that said, I personally prefer, when I can, write this type of tests. So I have this client, I got it from the Super Rocket, okay, whatever. And then I can use this client to send in a GET request and then tell it, okay, just prepare a GET request and then say just dispatch, and it will execute that route. And we get back a response. And then we can interrogate in the test this response. One of the first things I normally check is the status. So when we actually browsed here, okay, localhost something 8000 some text, we got a 404 error. And you're quite familiar with this because you encounter it in many websites. There is also probably you encounter the 500 error pages. these are the numbers of the status numbers of the HTTP requests or responses more precisely. And the number 200 is meaning okay. But we don't really need to remember the numbers because Rocket provides this status enum, I guess, and you can verify that the response status was indeed okay. Fine. And then I can take the header. Okay, so each response contains a header which informs the browser how to deal with the content being sent, and then it includes the actual content. Now, in the header, one of the fields is the content type. And in this case, I'm getting back to the file. In this case, when I said it's a static str, it will return us a content type which is text plain. So let me show you what does it really mean. Let's say we have put it in here, hello Rust, and I would like to put it bold. So I'm going to put some HTML here. I stop this one, restart it, and try to access the main page. And I don't get bold, I get the exact thing that I typed in. Why? Well, this is what is being sent to me. That's clear, okay? Because this is the content that the server sends me. But because sends the client, okay? Because and now I can go back to the test. Because the content type is text plain, the browser interprets as just plain text, okay? We can also actually use curl. Are you familiar with curl? With HTTP localhost 8000, okay? This will return the same content, and I can use the minus lowercase I think. It returns beyond, so it returns, what did I do? Yes, okay. So here on the left-hand side, you can see the content. It just doesn't have a new line at the end, so it got stuck in front of the prompt. And here, this is the header. Okay, now let me go back for a second. This is the terminal where I'm running the program. So I put a few spaces here. I go back to this one and run curl. So here we can see the result. Let me check how it looks like on the terminal. It says, I received a GET request. This is what Rocket tells me. And also it was successful and so on. Why am I showing this one? Because some people will know that there is also a capital I here that will bring me the same header, okay, but it won't show me the content. So what's the difference between the two? When I put on the capital I in the curl request, in the curl command, what it sends, it doesn't send the GET request, it sends a head request. I mentioned GET and POST, so there are a few others, and one of the, maybe the third most common one is the head request. When the browser sends a request to the server called head, and then the server only returns the header, not the content. So that's the difference between in curl between lowercase I and capital I. If you read the Rocket documentation, it says that actually it also explains it here nicely. Okay, so we could, let me get back to the source code here. Just this week we defined the GET, how to deal with the GET request, and we could define how to deal with a POST request. We also can define how to deal with a head request to the specific path. Now, probably no one does this. I don't know. I don't really know what would be the reason to define a separate route for the head request. But I guess there are reasons. I just don't have any idea now. So what Rocket does is that when it receives a head request, and if it's not implemented, the head path, then it automatically calls the GET path, okay, the GET function, the function that deals with the GET request, and throws away the content and just returns the header. Okay, so this is what basically you can see here, no matching routes for head. So automatically head request is now using the get request, and that's how it returned the content. Okay, what else? The last part here is that I actually fetching the text, the content of the page, and then comparing it to some predefined text. Now, this can be done in this very, very simple case when I get the content and I compare it to some exact text. In a real application, you won't really want to compare it to an exact text because the exact text is a huge HTML page. So you won't want to do that. Instead of that, you will probably, and this is what I do at least, you probably want to check whether certain strings appear or maybe don't appear in the response. So for example, I often test when there is a response page for, let's say you have a login page where the user can type in stuff, username, password, clicks on it, and then you get a response page saying you have an error. Because you provided the password incorrectly or the username or whatever. Now, you probably want to make sure that the password is not included in this one that the browser sends back. I guess, okay? I think this is how at least I do. So then I would add the test and verifies that whatever password I used in the test, the same text doesn't appear in the response. Okay, I think it's enough for the first demo. Let's go with the second demo. How would you hide the password? I'm not sure what the question refers to hiding the password. So when we are sending a post request, the password is not shown, right? In the request, in the request. And then it arrives to the server, and the server determines that something went bad and returns the login page. Let's say all kind of fields, or let's do it with a registration page because then it's more interesting, where you already have many fields, including username and password and a home address and whatever. So you don't want the user to lose all that data that the user already filled out, but you don't want to send the password back. So when you're sending back the form again, you already fill all the fields except the password field, and the user will have to type in the password again. It's annoying, but I think, as I understand, it's way more secure than sending back some password. Someone is saying that the request is technically also encrypted or ciphered by TLS. So yes, if you're talking about, if we are going over the HTTPS, so here you don't have HTTPS, and I'm talking to localhost, and here you have HTTPS. That means that all the communication between the browser and the server is encrypted. And so that doesn't matter if it's actually a GET request or a POST request or what on on the network, assuming you have HTTPS. And if you don't have HTTPS, you just have HTTP, then please make it happen that you will have HTTPS, okay? Because then doesn't matter again if it's a GET or a POST, it's all non-encrypted if you don't use HTTPS. So that part is, in that regard, it doesn't matter if it's a GET or a POST. It matters if you get of the post because in the GET you can see it here and someone can look at it and it gets into the log file and so on. Okay, so WebSocket, someone mentions WebSocket, that's actually a totally different story. And here for now, at least, I'm sort of talking about or thinking about returning also HTML and not talking about having some API and then having a client-side application written in JavaScript and talking to the server through that API, because that's a sort of a separate story, okay? Rocket starter, demo 2, and it needs to have some name. Okay, let's use the tera-1. Okay, I have a couple of these examples and I'm not sure anymore. Okay, so I created this demo 2 and it has a couple of different things. It's a much bigger example. So a couple of problems that we encountered in this very basic, simple case. One of them was that it was returning plain text, okay, not even if I was returning HTML, because of the header was also automatically set to plain text. That's one thing. The other thing is that eventually I would like to include some kind of a data in there, and then the best way to do that is to use some kind of a template system and create these templates. So I have a template here for the index HTML, which is some HTML. It has some HTML, and then it can have fields, let's say name, and this is basically a variable, and then the application can fill in these fields. These are basically the templates. So in this example, we have a template for the index page, and it includes two other templates, one for the header and one for the footer. So let's see the header. The header itself has a variable called title. Actually, it appears twice. Okay. Okay, so there are many templating systems, and actually I'm going to cover one of the other templating systems in a couple of days. I don't remember, maybe 2 days from now. I don't remember that. And this is a different templating system. Doesn't matter. In general, they are quite similar in the general idea. Moreover, what we experienced in the last, I don't know, many years, that every project starts out, or many projects start out with that, oh, I don't really need a templating system because I only have this text and I only replace one string in the middle. So I just put there some word and I'm going to replace it with just replace. And that's fine. And then later on this project, you find out that maybe sometimes I have a list of values and I would like to fill out the list of values in the template, and then you have a condition, and then and suddenly you created a new template language. So we have hundreds of these template languages and template engines, and many that are quite popular. So one of the key reasons of these templates is to make all the pages look alike, okay, not the same, but that they have the same layout, the same colors, and so on. So that's why, for now, I only have one page, but I include the header and the footer in that page. And all the menu, let's say, is in the header, and the CSS and everything is the header or in the footer, doesn't matter. Okay, so this one is only the main body of the page. So let's look at this one. In this example, I'm again using Rocket. Yeah, Tera it looks quite similar to Jinja. I'm not sure if it's based on Jinja, but Jinja is a templating engine used in the Flask, for Python Flask. Very nice. I use it quite a lot. So here we need, instead, in addition to Rocket itself, we need this other crate called Rocket Dynamic Templates, and it supports, as I last checked, it supports 2 templating systems. One of them is Tera, and I picked Tera because it was easier for me. I think I didn't understand how to use the other one. I don't remember which one is the other now. Okay, so I need both of them. And then that's actually, before I continue speaking, let me stop this one. Let's go to the demo 2 and just run it. So it will compile everything while I'm talking about this. So let's see another one, main, how it looks like. So this is the code that already uses the template system. Starts out the same, uses this Rocket dynamic template, some stuff on it. And here is the main page. So instead of returning a static string, it returns this template instance of template. And this is how it's defined. And then the way we take a template and convert it into HTML, meaning we render a template, is by calling the template render, providing the name of the file. And as you might recall, the name of the file is templates index. So the real name, the name index, but it maps to a file in the templates folder /index.html.tera, because this is the Tera framework, the Tera template system. Okay, so this is how I tell it which template to use. And then using this context macro, I can send in the values to fill in the various variables, let's say, in the template language. So basically I said here, okay, the title needs to be Rocket with Tera. So if I code this, let me check it. This is already running. Okay, nice. So I can go to the localhost 8000 page. And as you can see, now it's, I don't know, bold or capital letter or whatever. Welcome to your Rocket project. Okay, so you can see that this is already HTML. I can also click view source, which page source, and you can see that we actually got some HTML, and it was displayed not as the source that we received, but nicely formatted. Okay, not very fancy, but much better than we had earlier. And this is because when we are returning a template, the content type is already set to something else. Let's see, what does it? src test. We can also see it in the test because I check it. So it's text HTML instead of text plain. And the characters that UTF-8 is the same for the content type in both cases. Doesn't really matter for now. The key part is that it's text HTML. And I can also go to the next window and run curl on it with a -i. So you can see both, well, the header, here is the header. And here you can see the text HTML. Actually, if I scroll up, you can see that in the previous one, okay, still in the previous demo, it was text plain, and here it says text HTML. Okay, and all the other fields, I don't really care about them for now. They are not that important for us now. But you can see that this is the header. It has text HTML, and this is the body of the actually web application. And you can and so you can see the HTML, and you can this way you can use with curl and see what you get. Okay, so this is how we filled out. Now there is also something else that I put here in this skeleton, and basically you notice that when in the previous demo, when I used and I got to some page that didn't exist, it was, well, just 404 page, which was ugly. Now it won't be much nicer because I created it and my design capabilities are very low, but at least it shows you how you can use the same templates, the exact same template system to show your 404 page. And I'm quite sure that, okay, this is not what I wanted, that if you go to GitHub and type in some random text, and hopefully doesn't exist, then you get this 404 page, which is not moving for some reason. Okay, whatever. Okay, so this is a much nicer 404 page, and there's a huge competition who has the nicest 404 not found page. So in our case, this is just this one. So I can type in some blah blah, and now this not very nice, but it's used the same template, the same format. And how do I do it? I put this catch 404 on it. Some function doesn't matter the name of the function, and it's also sending back template. And it's rendering. Now in this case, I wanted to show something else, so I didn't pass through the key value pair. Yeah, look, Rocket has a lot of macros. Okay, so I didn't pass in the title. So where does it get the title from? Okay, you can see the title. It's both are actually here on the top. You can see, and here this is the title. So where do you get the title from? Let's see the template, and I use a template called 404. Okay, which is not very, hopefully not very confusing. And what I do here is that I use another trick of this template system, that I can, inside the template system, I can actually set the variables of the template system, of the templates, to whatever I'd like. So here I said, okay, the title is going to be 404 not found, and then the header, which is included below this, will use that value. Okay. So I can do also this, and it has the advantage that all of my text is in the template. So it's not in the code, and it will become useful if you'd like to translate things or give to other people to make the design, and they are the ones who are writing the text and not the developer. So beyond this, that I need to use the template, and I use the context. This context, this comes from, so both template and context come from this crate, the Rocket dynamic templates crate. And in addition to that, we also need to attach the template fairing, which, as I understand, is similar in idea to middlewares in other frameworks and other languages. Okay, so this is what we also need to do. And the last thing that we had to do is to register on the slash project, let's say, catchers. So these catchers, I have the 404 catcher, which is not so it's not a route, okay? All the others we had defined earlier, they were defining a route that's saying, okay, if someone gets to this pass, call this function. The catchers are functions, basically, that will be executed in certain, mostly error conditions. So for example, 404 will be executed if the user sent in a request and Rocket is trying to map the request to all of the passes that were defined, and Rocket can't find, if Rocket can't find any match, then it will say that, is there a catcher that will catch the 404 errors? And if there is, then it will call that one. Okay, so we have to define this catcher, and we have to register the catchers. Okay, the same way we could add a 500 catcher. So if there is a 500 error, which basically means that the server had some internal, so that's the internal server error, that's the official name of it. Then it will, instead of just blowing up and showing you a really nasty error page, you can show a nice error page. And you can also do other things. So maybe you can log something and so on. That might help. Okay, so this is how we added this one. Note the template. I wanted to show the test. Look at the test. So here I have the test for the main page. Okay, I call it the get. I call get on slash, check the status, should be okay. The content type should be text HTML. And here comes the point that I mentioned earlier, that I can't really, or I don't want to verify the exactness of the HTML, because that would be huge and the HTML itself changes a lot during development, because that's basically marketing driven a lot. So you don't want to fail your test because marketing decided that something moves pixel to the side. Can this not found be translated into other languages depending on region IP addresses? Well, that's just more logic. I don't know if, I don't think that Rocket has any special support for IP addresses and regions and so on. I'm not familiar with that actually. Okay. Yeah. So that's a whole separate story, I guess. Yeah, so I mentioned that you don't want to verify the exactness of the HTML. So instead of that, I'm checking whether the HTML that we got back from the server contains various texts or various HTML text, with text, and so on. And so this is not exact text. Yeah, it's running on Tokio as far as I know. Yeah, okay. So as async, I could, not the tests, here I could put on every call here, on every route, I could actually put async. The default example that is on the Rocket website doesn't use that, so I didn't use that either in these examples. I will have to think about more of these both example-wise and the demo how I show it. But you can use that async. So yes, it's async. Okay. So this was the first route, testing the main page. But I also like to check the error conditions. So when I write an application, and let's say in Python, when I write an application and it raises an exception at one point, because that's how it's a library and that's how it reports whatever, okay, then I would write a test calling that function with the improper data, so I will be able to verify that the library returns or raises the exception as I'm expecting it. The same basically with Rust. We call a function that is supposed to return a response, which is some kind of an error. Then I will want to have a test that verifies that in those cases I get the proper error response back. The same with a web application. I set up a page not found, so I would like to have at least one test that tries to access a page that doesn't exist, and so I can verify that the 404 page is still working properly and doing whatever the 404 page is supposed to show. So this is the test for that. I call get on some basically random address, or arbitrary, not random. That's the right word. And then I check whether the response status is not found. I'm not checking it. Okay, so this not found is basically the 404. The header should be the same, text HTML. And then in the HTML, I can again verify what the content is there. Okay, let me check what else do I have in these demos before I continue. Before we finish. Okay, I've been talking for more than an hour now, so it might, oops, that wasn't planned. So let's run it. Rocket starter, demo 3, and I think tera-module. Let's try this tera-2 as well, just to see what I put there. I already forgot what I put there, so sorry for that. Oh, yeah, nice. So first of all, Cargo.toml. Serde. Here, this one is already using serde. Why? Because this one is creating a configuration, allowing you to add more configurations. So Rocket allows you to, or allows you to create a file called Rocket.toml and put there all kind of configurations of Rocket itself. Okay, and it also allows you to add various other configurations that you come up with. Okay. So here I created a configuration field called title and said put it Rocket with Tera. Now there are various run modes of Rocket. I think that's the correct word here. Basically there's the debug and release, but you can have more. You can set these the values of these fields, of these configuration fields, for debug and release separately, and you can have some default. So this is this title is arbitrary. I came up with this name. How can you use this? In order to use this, I needed the serde, so I can deserialize it, or serde, or I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay. Yes, someone just verified that. Thank you. That verified that Rocket sits on top of Tokio, and the routes can be async. Good. Okay, so we also use this Rocket fairing AdHoc and state, and we need to create a structure where we define what kind of fields we expect or require from our configuration, for our own configuration. So I defined it that there a title. Okay, I'm expecting a title. I called it my config, and I set up the serde. I derived it from the deserialize, so it can use the deserialization of serde. Now, in every route that I need this configuration, which probably every route, but not necessarily, in every route, I can set up this state. Okay, I can set up the route to expect a variable. The variable name doesn't matter, but the type needs to be this state and my config. And then Rocket will automatically read that configuration, extract the specific fields, okay, and I will get back here a variable called config that has that's basically an instance of that struct, and then I can access the fields of that struct. In this case, the title. Okay, so this way I can I actually fought with this quite a lot, and then I got some help in the chat. What was it called? On the discuss page of Rocket. So I think it's Ctrl-t GitHub RW2 Rocket discussions. That's where Rocket lives. RWF2. Sorry. And this is the discussion, so you can feel free to ask questions here about Rocket. Let me put it in the chat, and then I probably won't forget to add it to this website. So back to where was I? So this is how you create your own configuration, whatever you need. In order to have this to work, you also need to add here to attach this AdHoc config reader, okay, when you launch the Rocket. Nice. Okay, I think that's all what we had in this thing, and then the demo for tera-module, demo 4. So what I wanted to do here is to separate already using Tera, but separate the code into separate modules. So let's just go over this is the same, there's nothing new. Rocket, it is the same that we saw earlier, nothing new with this configuration. Then we have the main RS that has a route, okay, that uses this config and returns something. Okay, this route is nothing very special. It's nothing new. Okay, this is the same that we had earlier, and we have the sketcher. Okay, and then we are mounting the index route onto the slash, and then we have a separate application which is going to be mounted the slash up route, slash up path. Sorry, and it's coming from this up file. So source up. rs. It's coming from here. This is how I saw some other projects doing it. So they have now we have this separate file where we can implement whatever should be under the /up. And so we have the / mapped, and in the main project, it will be mapped onto the /up, but we don't care about it. So that's one thing here. And then this will have various routes, and we create a function here that what it does, it just returns these routes using the routes macro already of Rocket. And then here in the main file, we mount it to the /up. And I think the rest is the same, nothing new here. So I only created this to make it easier for anyone who would like to already start writing in separate files. So it will already, some of the applications will be separated. So I think that's it for now. There are lots of other things that I probably should have covered, but that's what I could fit into 1 hour and a little bit more for now. Some critical parts, for example, how you get parameters. So that's me find, here it is. So let me go through a couple of examples here on the website, which are, I think, quite interesting. Echo using get. Okay, so this is a very basic application where the user is able to, where it shows you a window, the user able to type in some text. The text goes to the web server, and then the web server returns back the same text. So basically, this shows you the round trip of sending a request with some data, and then the server doing some processing on it, and then returning it. So it looks like this. This is basically how we are this is the interesting part, the really interesting part. But before the interesting part, let me show the slightly more boring part. This is how it looks like the HTML that will show you a form, okay, that allows you to type in some text. Actually, I can go there and run this. Okay, let me run this. So instead of this, I go to work, Rust, Code-Maven, and it's in examples. It's everything. All of these examples are in a Git repository that you can access. Okay, so examples, Rocket, Echo, Get. Okay, so hopefully this works. Cargo run. So this is down here is the HTML with the form, and then there. This is just returned by the main page, not that fancy. This is the one that actually accepts a parameter. Yes, I like this echo. This is a very simple example, slightly better than the hello world that is only one way thing, but someone reminds the PHP thing. Yes, of course. So it's a nice, I think it's a nice way to show these basic things. And this one showing with the GET request, and then there's a separate one showing it with a POST request. Okay, so, but apparently if people know about the PHP, then they don't really need all this explanation about what is a GET request and a POST request and all these things. But unfortunately, I don't know exactly what to expect or what can I expect, what knowledge. So this is how I can define in Rocket that I am expecting a parameter after the question mark called text. And then this is how I say that I'm expecting it to be just a plain any string, basically. Okay. And then inside I can use this variable. So now I can just set the context variable in the template to be text. And let's see, this is already running. So let me access this. So this is how echo looks like. I can say hi, say echo, and then you type in hi. Wonderful, right? So it works. But that's the main interesting. Where is it? The interesting part is that this is the way that I can accept or expect what we call query string parameters. So parameters that are sent in. See, echo. You see here at the top, you can see the content, okay, and that I typed in. And here you can also see in this article, you can also see the test for it, okay? As I mentioned, testing is very important for me. So here it is. So here is the post request, echo using HTTP post. I don't know why put the post later or before. So here, slightly different example. First of all, this is what we need to write in order to tell Rocket that we are handling a post request to the echo /echo path. And then this is the way we are telling Rocket that we are expecting some kind of an input. Now, this is slightly more complex than the one with the get. Here, in order for this to work, we need to define a structure describing all the fields that we are expecting. Well, it's more complex, but on the other hand, more precise. And then in the function, we say that this input field, this input thingy, okay, which is basically an instance of this input text, is going to be an instance of this input text. And this is the way we set it up, okay? And then once we have this, let me run this example as well, echo post. It takes a couple of seconds. I hope I won't run out of disk space. Okay, so this is how you have the post example. By the way, you can see Tokio here. Someone was missing Tokio. It seems that it had enough of me compiling like a 5th or 6th time the whole thing. Okay, finally. So now if I go back to this application, remove this one, it looks a little bit different because I added something. So let's say kukuriku, echo. You can see there is I don't pass the kukuriku here because it's a post request. But you can see it responded properly. And this one is just trying to show what happens when we send in a request without filling in the post, the field. Why would I care about this? Okay, why did I need a special form here in order to show this? And if I need a special form, then why do I care? I mean, an attacker, right? That's sort of can't create a form on my page, right? Well, can't, but this whole thing can be done using curl. So I can send in curl. Let me check how it's done. Curl, HTTP localhost 8000 echo. And I'm sending in -xu, I don't remember, post. And then what was the name of the field? Anyone remembers? Text. Brilliant. Text. I think that's, hello? Not this way. Unsupported media type. Of course, I have it in the article. Okay. So this is the header. And this is the way I'm shining it, -d. Okay, so let me copy paste it. It's much easier. Okay, so this is the way you can send in with curl a post request. So here I am sending in with just text, and you can see you typed in hello world. That's fine. But I can also send in a post request with text not having anything. That's still fine. Or if I send in the post request without even setting the field, then I get this unsupported media type, some error. Okay, so that's why you need to be so even if I don't have a form or whatever, but those people who wrote PHP are familiar with this, of course, or any other web framework that you can send in with curl or with requests, any kind of requests. So we have to handle that even if our forms don't provide that kind of an input. So anyway, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions, now it's the time to ask, or if you don't want it to be in the video, then we can do it after I stop the video. So those people who are here in this meeting, after video, we can you can play around a little bit with Rocket, and I will be here trying to help you or answer questions or try to answer the questions. And then anyone watching the videos, please thumb up on the video and follow the channel and subscribe to the Code-Maven's Meetup page and join us in our next meeting. And if you liked it, then please also consider supporting me financially so I can continue doing these things. Thank you very much, and see you in the next. Oh, I need to find the button of this video because it's so small now, I can't see it. Anyway, thank you for watching.